I'm Joe Catalano with an AM Quincy news update for Thursday, March 13th. Quincy City Council President Ian Cain is in Washington, D.C. this week, lobbying Congress to renew the tax-exempt status of municipal bonds. Cain says he's representing Quincy at the National League of Cities Congressional City Conference. The City Council recently supported Cain's resolution calling on Washington to continue to allow municipal bonds to remain tax-free. Cities and towns use bonds to finance infrastructure projects such as road improvements and new schools. In Quincy, Cain says without the tax-exempt status, the new public safety building would cost $68 million more. The Southwest Middle School would have cost $26 million more, and the new Squantum School would cost $44 million more. Cain says without the tax-exempt status, bond costs would increase anywhere from 5 to 22%, making them less attractive on the bond market and leading to fewer infrastructure projects. An accident involving a Quincy school bus yesterday is under investigation. Police say the crash happened at Washington Street and Sumner Street in Quincy Point. At about 11:30 yesterday morning, police say the driver of an SUV ran a red light and struck the mini school bus, which was carrying one student. The bus driver suffered a shoulder injury, but the student was not hurt. The condition of the SUV driver is unclear. The crash remains under investigation, but the driver told police that sun glare blocked the vision of the traffic signal, causing her to run the red light. Yesterday was an early release day for Quincy elementary and middle school students. The bus did sustain heavy damage to its front end. Volleyball courts are coming to Pageant Field in Quincy. The city has begun building 2 regulation-sized sand volleyball courts in the southeast corner of Pageant Field. The city says no trees will be disturbed. The work is part of the overall improvements to Pageant Field and Marymount Park, and the courts will be open to the public by the end of spring. Over the past 4 years, the city has made major improvements to Pageant Field and Marymount Park, including a new picnic pavilion, walking trail, pickleball courts on Fenno Street, major updates to Veterans Memorial Stadium and Mitchell McCoy softball field, and a total renovation of Marymount Parkway, including historic street lamps, a new granite wall, and new plantings. A new restaurant will be opening at the site of the former La Paloma Mexican restaurant on Newport Avenue in North Quincy. The Board of License Commissioners this week approved a license for Cava Meze Grill to open at the site, where La Paloma had been in business for 40 years. City Clerk Nicole Crispo says the chain restaurant has a Mediterranean menu. The restaurant chain has 3 locations in Boston, but this is their first venture on the South Shore. The hours will be 10:45 a.m. to 10 p.m., 7 days a week. It's unclear when the new restaurant will open. Costco is expanding its wholesale warehouses footprint with a new store in the Bay State. The Washington State-based chain's newest Massachusetts location started welcoming customers at 160 Old Post Road in Sharon at 8 o'clock yesterday morning. The Sharon store is Costco's 7th location in Massachusetts, 620th in the United States, and 900th location globally. Costco also plans to open 2 new locations in Texas and 1 in Michigan this week. A membership is required to shop at Costco. Annual fees range from $65 to $130. A former Massachusetts firefighter and paramedic from Vietnam, who remains unidentified, has pleaded guilty to federal charges after using a dead teenager's identity for years. The Braintree resident, officially known as John Doe, was arrested last year, just a few months after graduating from the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy and being hired by the Melrose Fire Department. Throughout that process, he used the identity of a 13-year-old who died in Boston in 2002. Doe pleaded guilty this week to passport fraud and aggravated identity theft. He'll be sentenced on June 12th. The federal government began investigating Doe in 2023 after he applied for a passport at a U.S. post office in Weymouth. Prosecutors say the Boston Passport Agency found a death record matching the identity that he provided, including the name, date of birth, social security number, and parental information. Investigators learned that Doe had used that identity to obtain a social security card in 2018 and Massachusetts driver's licenses in 2018, 2019, and 2023. Also in 2018, Registry of Motor Vehicles held a fraud hearing after finding through facial recognition technology that Doe had received driver's licenses in two names, one in the dead teenagers and another under the name of Trong Nguyen. Authorities said Doe testified at the fraud hearing that the false identity was his own and that Nguyen was his cousin's name. His license was suspended for 6 months as a result. During his plea hearing this week, prosecutors said Doe testified under oath that Nguyen is his true identity. Investigators found that Doe's records between 1997 and 2018 match information about Nguyen, who entered the U.S. as a legal permanent resident in 1979. That status was revoked in 1995 following a second-degree burglary conviction in 1991. In 2010, Nguyen was arrested on charges of embezzlement and larceny after being accused of stealing $46,000 from the Norwell Firefighters Union, where he was working as an officer. More than a decade later, under the dead teenager's name, Doe obtained EMT basic certification in 2022 and EMT paramedic certification in 2023. He used that identity at the Firefighting Academy between November of 23 and January of 24, serving as a firefighter in Melrose until his arrest in May. Federal prosecutors said the passport fraud charges carry a sentence of up to 10 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. After any imposed sentence is completed, prosecutors say he will be subject to deportation hearings. Nearly half of the Education Department's workforce set to be off the job, including employees in Boston. All employees working out of the department's regional office in Boston will be part of the layoffs. Employees in similar regional offices in San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Dallas, and Cleveland are also losing their jobs. About 1,300 career employees received termination notices Tuesday night, informing them they'll be placed on administrative leave beginning March 21st. That's about half of the Department of Education staff nationwide. All employees were told the department's Washington headquarters and regional offices would be closed yesterday with access forbidden. They will reopen today. The only reason given for the closures was unspecified security reasons. The department says due to collective bargaining agreements, laid-off workers will get full pay and benefits until June 9th, along with severance based on time served. President Trump campaigned on a promise to close the Department of Education, but he can't unilaterally get rid of a federal agency without congressional approval. Governor Maura Healey says that would be disastrous for children who need help the most. The Department of Education says dozens of schools, including 6 in Massachusetts, are facing potential enforcement. Officials said the department's also terminating leases on buildings in cities, including Boston. As part of the Quincy 400 celebrations, the city of Quincy announcing an evening with New York Times bestselling author Elin Hilderbrand tonight. Named the Queen of the Beach Reads, Hilderbrand has written 30 novels, most of them set on Nantucket. Her recent book, A Perfect Couple, was adapted into the Netflix series starring Nicole Kidman. Hilderbrand will speak tonight at the Granite Links Ballroom from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. The evening will include an author discussion moderated by KISS 108 personality Lisa Donovan, and a book signing will follow. The event is free to the public. but ticketing is required at quincy400.com. Check of business news. This morning, stocks were mixed. The Dow is down 82 points. The Nasdaq rose 212, and the S&P is up 27. Asian stocks mostly lower despite a rebound on Wall Street, fueled by an encouraging update on U.S. consumer prices. The dollar fell, the euro rose, oil at $67 a barrel. In sports, Celtics lose to the Thunder, 118-112. They'll be in Miami tomorrow night at 7. Tonight, the Bruins are in Ottawa at 7. Today's forecast from the National Weather Service could be a snow shower this morning, otherwise cloudy. The high of 45 degrees. Tonight, partly cloudy, a low 34. Tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds, high 53. Cloudy with a high of 60 on Saturday. Cloudy and windy on Sunday with a high of 67. The marine forecast calls for 2-foot waves, east winds at 5 to 10 knots, high tide 11:52 a.m. Sunrise 6:58, sets at 6:48. I'm Joe Catalano with an AM Quincy news update for Thursday, March 13th.